Hello, night owls. Tonight we're taking a dusty little ride into one of the most romanticized nightmares in history, the Wild West. More specifically, we're looking at why you, yes you, wouldn't last a single day as a cowboy. I know what you're thinking. Cowboys are cool, right? Big hats, leather boots, riding off into the sunset with a rifle and a one-liner. Maybe a harmonica solo playing somewhere in the background, but here's the thing. You've been lied to. Hollywood gave you Clint Eastwood and tumbleweeds. History gives you infected saddle sores, $2 a day, and the exciting privilege of sleeping next to a guy named Toothless Dan who hasn't bathed since Lincoln got shot. Before we saddle up, make sure to hit that like button if you're into weird, gritty history. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more brutal reality checks from the past. Drop a comment below and tell me, would you rather be a cowboy or literally anything else? All right, time to dim the lights, get cozy, because this is going to be a long, hot, miserable day. Chapter 1, Wake Up, It's Hell. O'clock. Congratulations, you've just been hired as a cowboy, and I hope you didn't expect a bed. You wake up somewhere out on the open range because that's where cowboys actually sleep, on the ground, under the stars, and occasionally under a tarp if the cook didn't forget it. Your bed is a bedroll made from a coarse wool blanket that smells like old horses, damp mold, and someone else's feet. It has absorbed enough dust, sweat, and rain to technically qualify as soil. There's no mattress, no pillow, no tent. And the closest thing to a roof is your hat, which is currently half crushed beneath your saddle. It's not even sunrise yet. The sky is still navy blue, but your boss, who's been up since God invented daylight, is already hollering at you from across the campfire. Get moving! No good morning, no coffee, just barked orders and the sound of metal plates clanking together as the camp cook slaps something resembling breakfast into bent tin bowls. The food is beans, again. Because that's what cowboys eat. Beans, overcooked bacon, maybe a biscuit if you're lucky. It tastes like sadness with a hint of soot. You're stiff, everything hurts, you're covered in dirt, and so is your blanket, your hair, your clothes, and your soul. There's no bath. Cowboys don't bathe often, not because they're too tough for soap, but because the nearest clean water is 15 miles away and currently being used by cattle. Your mouth is dry. The only thing to drink is yesterday's boiled coffee, still warm in the pot, still bitter enough to make your tongue shrivel. And you drink it because it's that or warm creek water with a side of mosquito larvae. Your boots, you slept with them on? Not for comfort, but because scorpions and snakes love crawling into warm leather at night. So if you're the kind of person who kicks off your shoes before bed, bad news. You'll either get bit or you'll spend the morning shaking a rattlesnake out of your footwear while screaming like a child. Your clothes haven't been washed in weeks. Your socks are crunchy. Your undershirt is basically a rag glued to your back by dried sweat. The chafing between your thighs is a fire you don't talk about. After you shove beans into your mouth and cough down a gulp of whatever that drink was, it's time to roll up your gear. Your entire worldly possession is wrapped in that bedroll. Maybe a comb, maybe a spare shirt if you're rich, maybe a pocket knife you pretend to know how to use. Then you saddle your horse. This sounds fun in theory. In practice, it means getting kicked in the shin by a creature that hates you. Your horse is half wild, definitely smarter than you, and fully aware that your inexperience means it can get away with nearly anything short of murder. You get the saddle on after 3 failed attempts and 1 faceful of dirt. You cinch the strap. It's crooked, you fix it. It's too tight. The horse stomps, you start over. 10 minutes later, you're in the saddle, heart pounding, thighs already aching. And now your day actually begins. You're not herding cattle yet. No, first, you're assigned a chore. Maybe it's fetching water from a stream 2 miles away. Maybe it's collecting firewood. Maybe it's checking for strays from last night's watch. Whatever it is, it's unpleasant, physical, and involves walking through prickly brush, swatting away flies, and cursing under your breath. You're constantly on edge. The West isn't quiet. Coyotes howl, rattlesnakes rattle, a tumbleweed rolls past, and for a second you panic because you've seen this movie before and something always explodes. You spot your fellow cowboys, most of them older, rougher, wearing wide-brimmed hats that have never come off, even in sleep. Their skin is darkened not from tanning but from being slowly leatherized by years of sun and wind. Their hands are cracked. Their eyes are squinted. Their voices sound like sandpaper. These men do not like you. They tolerate you, barely. By midday, you're sweating through your shirt, choking on dust, and second-guessing your decision to ever leave the city or the century. The sun doesn't just shine out here, it burns. There's no shade, no break, just wide open plains and 300 cows that need moving. The cows are not cooperative. They moo, wander off, fall into gullies and occasionally trample your gear. One steps on your foot, you cry out. No one helps. They just laugh. The cook throws a bean at you and calls you a city boy. There's no lunch break, just more beans if you want to shovel them into your mouth while riding. You do. You regret it. You keep riding. All afternoon. Your legs go numb. Then they catch fire. Your spine starts a protest. Your fingers blister from gripping the reins. Your lips crack from the wind. You sneeze blood. By sunset, you're exhausted. Mentally, physically, spiritually. You can't remember what day it is. You're not even sure if this is still Earth. The herd is finally stopped. The cattle settle down. You unsaddle your horse, wipe its coat, whisper apologies, and collapse near the fire. You expect someone to say, "Good job." They don't. They hand you a can of beans and a cup of that same terrible coffee, now reboiled and twice as strong. You eat, you pretend it's good, you try not to cry. Someone strums a banjo. Another guy scratches something into a rock with a nail. You stare at the stars, wondering how you're not already dead. And then, just as your eyes start to close and you think maybe, just maybe, you'll get a few hours of sleep, your name is called. You've got night watch. That means no sleep, just you, a rifle, and 1,000 cows that may or may not try to stampede when a squirrel runs by. Tired yet? Good, because in Chapter 2 we talk about stampedes, wild weather, and what happens when your horse bolts and you're still attached. The misery's just getting started. Ready? Chapter 2, Stampedes, Storms, and One Very Angry Horse. The only thing worse than spending all day on a horse is not being allowed to get off it. It's pitch black, the fire's down to embers. Everyone else is snoring in their bedrolls, but you're on night watch. Because as it turns out, cows don't politely go to bed. They loiter, they fidget, they shift their weight and cough and moo and wander in circles like drunk, oversized toddlers. And it's your job to make sure they don't panic, because if they do, that's when the fun begins. Cowboy folklore makes stampedes sound cinematic, a sea of hooves, thunder across the plains, man versus nature. In reality, it's terror, it's instant chaos. One spooked cow sets off the others, and suddenly you've got hundreds of pounds of beef moving at 30 miles an hour in every direction, including toward you. Sometimes it starts with a distant coyote howl. Other times it's just a loud sneeze or thunder. Or once a cowboy farted too loud and half the herd decided it was time to make a break for Utah. Tonight it's thunder. You hear it just past midnight, low and long, like God clearing his throat. The sky was clear earlier, but that means nothing. Plain storms don't roll in, they pounce. You shift in your saddle, muttering to your horse, who's as thrilled about this as you are. The wind picks up, the cows get jittery, a few start pacing. One lets out a long, anxious moo. You know what's coming. The first flash of lightning hits. No rain yet, just a blinding white bolt that splits the sky and gives the entire world a split-second X-ray. You count. 1, 2, 3, boom! The sound rolls in like an avalanche, and the cows snap. They don't wait. They run. You shout, wave your hat, fire a shot into the air. Nothing works. The herd surges forward, fast and wide. You've got seconds to move or get trampled. Your horse rears, spooked by the sudden motion, and you're yelling. You grab the reins, hold on tight, try to stay seated. He bolts anyway. You're now galloping alongside a wall of terrified livestock in the dark during a storm, trying to steer panic with one arm and your own bowel control with the other. This is cowboying. You ride hard, circling to the front of the stampede, trying to get the lead cow to turn. Because if the front turns, the rest will follow. If it doesn't, they're going to run straight off a cliff or into a river or through camp. And if they run through camp, your cook is going to die holding a ladle. You finally cut in front, waving your arms like a madman. The cow blinks, yes, cows blink, and veers slightly. The rest follow. The stampede bends. It doesn't stop, but it curves enough to avoid disaster. The herd slows. Eventually, the dust settles, and you're still alive, covered in sweat, dust, and adrenaline you didn't know you had. When the rain starts 5 minutes later, it feels like punishment. Cold, sharp drops soaking through your shirt, chilling you to the bone. You want to scream, but your horse is already sulking. You don't want to add to the mood. You ride slowly now, circling the exhausted cows. Your muscles ache. Your jaw is sore from clenching. You're soaked, hungry and vibrating with leftover panic. By the time you finally crawl back into camp, the storm has passed, but so has any chance of sleep. At dawn, no one congratulates you. You saved the herd, possibly the cook, and maybe even your own life. but instead of applause you get beans, again cold this time. You sit near the fire, shivering, eating your sad breakfast, while the others saddle up. You're expected to ride again, no breaks, no half-days, no emotional support animals. Today's route includes crossing a river. The river looks shallow. It's not. It's muddy, filled with invisible rocks and holes that like to suck down boots, horses, and occasionally a whole steer. You ride in carefully. The current grabs your horse's legs, and you grip the saddle like it's the only thing keeping you from drowning. It probably is. Midway through, your horse stumbles. You slide. One foot hits the water, cold, shockingly cold. Your saddle shifts. Your horse panics, you fall in, and now you're underwater in your clothes, boots dragging you down, water rushing into your nose, your ears, your soul. You thrash, you cough, you surface once, catch a glimpse of hooves, then get splashed again. Eventually someone ropes you out. You lie on the riverbank, coughing up water and pride. No one says anything, they just laugh. One guy mutters, "Greenhorn." You ride the rest of the day wet. Your boots squelch. Your pants stick. Your thighs develop a new layer of chafing that feels like being scraped by hot sandpaper. You keep riding. The sun dries you just enough to make the salt stains visible. Your skin itches. Your neck burns. You forgot to wear a bandana. Rookie mistake. By afternoon, you've got blisters on your hands and blisters on your blisters. You've been stung by a bee. You've eaten a sandwich made of jerky and regret. You've stepped in something warm and are trying very hard not to ask what it was. Then your horse throws a shoe. It's exactly what it sounds like. The iron horseshoe pops loose, and your horse starts limping. You dismount, check the hoof, and realize you have no tools. Of course you don't. You're not a farrier. You walk the rest of the afternoon beside your injured horse, in the heat, in silence. When you finally reach camp, the sun is setting, the fire's up, dinner's on. Guess what it is? It's beans. You eat, you don't talk. You wrap your arms around your knees and stare at the stars. You've survived 2 stampedes, 1 river, 1 thrown horseshoe, a lightning storm, and the world's worst coffee. And it's only day 2. Tomorrow, you're on cook duty. Hope you know how to bake biscuits in a Dutch oven with cow dung for fuel, or maybe, just maybe, your horse will kill you in your sleep. You wouldn't blame him. Chapter 3. Cowpuncher Cuisine and Culinary Regrets. It's dawn again, not the peaceful kind with golden rays streaming through cottonwood trees and birds chirping over dewy grass. No, this is the cowboy kind. The sky is orange and bruised, the air is full of dust and horse breath, and something smells faintly like burning socks. That's breakfast. And also it's your turn to make it. You're today's cook's helper, which is kind of like being the assistant to a grumpy wizard whose only spell is diarrhea. The main cook, known lovingly as Cookie, has been awake since long before you even realized you were cold. He's standing over a battered cast-iron Dutch oven, muttering curses at the biscuits inside like they personally offended him. You approach, bleary-eyed and sore from yesterday's waterlogged misadventure, and he hands you a ladle that's seen 3 wars. "You're stirring beans," he says, "and keep the fire hot, not hell hot, just angry hot." You don't ask questions. Not because you understand, but because yesterday you asked what the coffee was made of and were told, mostly bark and last week's regrets. This morning's menu is exactly what it always is. Beans, bacon, black coffee, and maybe some biscuits if the gods are kind. No fresh eggs, no toast, no fruit. If you're wondering why cowboys didn't die of scurvy, well, a lot of them did, or they just powered through with a gut full of salted meat and spite. As the fire spits and the bean pot simmers, you try to scrape the previous day's grime off the cooking gear with a dirty rag and some sand. There's no soap. There's no clean water. There's a stick you can use to poke out the burnt bits. That's your dishwasher. You stir the beans too fast. Cookie glares. You stir them too slow. He glares again. You trying to make him jealous or just stupid? He grunts. You consider quitting cowboy life to become a poet or a corpse? Whichever happens first. Eventually breakfast is served. You ladle grey-brown bean sludge into bent tin bowls and pass them out to the crew. No one says thank you. No one says anything. They just eat like wolves. Some directly from the bowl, others with hunks of biscuit used as crude spoons. It's quiet, efficient, and vaguely horrifying. You eat last. You're not sure if the beans taste like food or if your tongue has just given up. There's grit in your teeth and bacon grease on your shirt. The coffee makes your throat itch and your soul reconsider its lease. Then comes clean-up. You scrape plates with a rock, literally. You find the least dusty puddle and dunk the cookware in it. Cookie nods in approval. Apparently you've graduated to not actively ruining everything. Then you ride again. Today's ride includes wrangling strays, repairing a busted fence, and trying to convince a longhorn steer not to climb into a ravine. Spoiler, it does anyway. You spend an hour coaxing it out while getting bit by 3 different insects and almost falling in after it. You're wearing the same clothes as yesterday and the day before. They're now part of your skin. Your boots have become foot prisons. Your shirt is one stiff gust away from becoming a flag, and your socks have formed a union and are protesting for new management. Your lunch, guess what? Beans. Cold this time. Eaten while sitting on a sun-baked rock, watching a vulture circle overhead and wondering if it knows something you don't. By late afternoon, the real challenge begins, building a fire for dinner. Cowboy fires aren't romantic. You don't rub 2 sticks together and blow gently while a flame springs to life. You hunt down dry cow patties, yes, dry dung, stack them into a little pyramid and light them with whatever matches haven't already gotten damp in your saddlebag. The smoke smells exactly like you think it would. You cook dinner, more beans, more bacon, maybe some coffee thick enough to be classified as a semi-solid. You don't even pretend it's good anymore. You just swallow and pray it doesn't come back up. Tonight, you're not on watch. Thank every deity in the sky. You finally unroll your bed, still damp from 2 days ago, and lie down, arms aching, legs twitching, stomach rebelling. You close your eyes, hoping for sleep. Then the coyotes start howling. You jolt upright. You were almost asleep. Cookie is snoring, the horses are restless. You grab your rifle and sit up, squinting into the darkness. It's fine. It's always fine. Coyotes almost never come close, except when they do. A rustle behind the cook tent. You aim. Hold your breath. Wait, it's just a tumbleweed. You laugh nervously. Then a bat flies into your face. You scream. A short, undignified yelp. Everyone hears it. You are now Bat Boy until the next guy accidentally wets himself. Eventually, sleep does come. Not restful sleep, just unconsciousness with extra pain. The next morning, Cookie is missing. You find him 15 minutes later behind the camp, yelling at a skunk that got into the supplies. The skunk wins. You all smell like regret for the rest of the week. You cook again. Beans, now with a hint of skunk. After breakfast, you get sent to help move a sick cow into a holding pen. It kicks you in the thigh. You collapse. The foreman yells at you for being in the way of the cow. You start to believe the cow has a personal vendetta. At lunch, a fellow cowboy tells you about the time he got dysentery from a questionable river and rode 30 miles without stopping, praying to every god he knew and inventing 3 new ones. You laugh. He doesn't. He was serious. He still flinches when he hears trickling water. In the evening, the wind picks up. A dust storm is coming. You scramble to tie down gear, protect the food, cover the fire. Dust storms don't knock politely. They hit like a wall. Suddenly you're choking on grit. Your eyes sting. Your ears fill with sand, and your bedroll has taken flight like an angry kite. You try to find your hat. You do. It's full of scorpions now. The storm passes. You dig out your dinner from the sand. Still beans. Now crunchy. That night someone gets food poisoning. It's not you, but it might be tomorrow. You sleep with one eye open. You dream of bat attacks and bean casseroles. In the morning, you look in the mirror, if mirrors existed out here, and you wouldn't recognize yourself. You're browner, leaner, cracked at the edges. You move slower, talk less. You're becoming a cowboy, and that terrifies you. Tomorrow you're riding into town, but don't get excited. You'll still smell bad, and now you'll be asked to bathe in a tin tub behind a saloon, in full view of 3 chickens and a laughing 12-year-old. But at least it's not your turn to cook. Chapter 4. Into town, into trouble. It's town day. Don't get excited. This isn't a vacation. It's a supply run, which means you're still waking up before the sun, still eating beans, and still smelling like someone buried you in a horse stall and forgot to dig you back up. The difference is now you're headed toward what passes for civilization. A dusty little dot on the map with a general store, a saloon, and maybe one drunk guy who calls himself mayor. Town is 20 miles away, and you'll be riding there on the same horse that tried to bite you yesterday. You're starting to suspect it's personal. You're not riding solo either. You've been paired with 2 other cowboys who haven't shaved since Grant was president and whose only known hobbies are spitting and glaring. One of them has a revolver with 3 notches in the handle. You don't ask what they're for. The ride is long, hot, and bone-rattling. You pass sagebrush, vultures, and the occasional dead thing you hope isn't human. There are no roads, just ruts in the ground carved out by decades of wagon wheels and bad decisions. Conversation is minimal. One of your companions chews tobacco, and occasionally mutters about high prices and low morals. The other hasn't spoken since breakfast. You're not sure he even knows where you're going. By mid-morning, you see the town, or what counts as one. It's a stretch of buildings leaning against each other like they've had too much whiskey. There's a saloon, a blacksmith, a livery stable, a general store, a jail with one very bored deputy sitting on the porch, and a church that doubles as a meeting hall, wedding venue, and emergency casket storage. You tie your horse outside the store. He looks at you with contempt, as if to say, "Go on, I dare you to leave me here." Inside the store is a wooden box stacked with sacks of flour, barrels of molasses, bolts of fabric, and exactly one jar of pickles floating in something that might be vinegar. A kid behind the counter greets you with a nod and proceeds to ignore you completely. Your job is to buy supplies. Coffee, beans, of course, sugar and tobacco for the foreman. You grab what you can, trying not to knock over the display of lantern oil. Your companions help by wandering the store, muttering about jerky quality and the decline of decent soap. You pay with coins that look like they've passed through 5 bar fights and 1 gunshot wound. Then saloon time. Now, movies make saloons look glamorous. Swinging doors, piano music, charming outlaws playing poker with a smirk. Reality? The doors are crooked. The piano has 2 working keys. The bartender looks like a man who's seen too much, and the air smells like sweat, whiskey and floorboards soaked in a century of bad decisions. You step inside and instantly regret it. The floor is sticky, the light is dim, a dog sleeps in the corner. There's a guy snoring in a chair and another one staring at a wall like it owes him money. You order a drink. It's whiskey or something adjacent. It burns going down and might have been strained through an old sock. Your companions order the same. One plays a hand of poker and loses immediately. The other gets into an argument with a man about whether or not mules are smarter than horses. The argument escalates into a spitting contest. No one wins. You try to enjoy the moment. This is your break after all, but the truth is, town life isn't much better than the trail. It's just louder, smellier, and somehow more dangerous. Outside you hear a gunshot. No one in the saloon flinches. "Just Jasper," someone says, "shoots his shadow when he's drunk." You sip your drink and pretend that's normal. Then someone bumps into you. It's a tall man in a stained coat with a revolver on his hip and a scar across his chin. He says nothing, just looks at you, then down at your drink, then back at you. You realize you're standing in his spot. You move. He nods. Cowboy diplomacy. Back outside, the sun is starting to drop. You head toward the bathhouse. It's a shack with a tub and a barrel of water that may or may not have been used by 5 people before you. You pay your coin, undress behind a curtain, and lower yourself into the lukewarm mystery liquid. It feels like heaven, until you find a floating hair and something that might be a bug. You try not to think about it. You scrub off 2 weeks of grit using a bar of soap that smells like pine tar and failure. You get out feeling cleaner but emotionally compromised. Your clothes are still filthy. There's no change of clothes. You just slap the dust off, put everything back on, and pretend you don't smell like a wet dog in a cigar factory. Before you leave, you pick up a letter from the post office. It's addressed to a cowboy who died last month. You hand it back. The clerk shrugs and throws it into a pile labelled unclaimed. On the ride back, it's quiet. The sun sets behind the hills and the sky turns a dusty purple. You think about how far you've come and how far you have left. Your back hurts. Your legs are sore. You're sunburned in new places. But you made it to town and back without getting shot, robbed, trampled, or abandoned. That's a win. You roll into camp after dark. Cookie hands you a bowl. Beans. Of course, you eat. And just before you fall asleep, you hear a coyote howling again, because tomorrow is another day and you're still a cowboy for now. Chapter 5. Range Hazards and Gunfights. Morning breaks, though break is generous. The sky is pale and hazy, like someone left a cloth over the sunrise. Your head pounds, not from excitement, but from 2 nights of beans, whiskey, and mysterious coyote serenades. You prop yourself up on your bedroll, muscles creaking, and wonder if it's even worth moving. It is. Because today you've been assigned range guard duty, patrolling the cattle beyond camp to watch for rustlers, predators, and the occasional outlaw who thinks a cattle drive is a free buffet. Danger lurks everywhere, and you have a single-shot revolver, 24 bullets, and 0 combat training. You saddle your horse, give it a pep talk. It doesn't listen, doesn't need to, it's already judging you. You ride out into the open, a lone sentinel against dust, rattlesnakes and loaded six-shooters. The cattle graze in patches of scrub grass, heads low, tails flicking. They're oblivious to the world. Until they're not. Your first hazard arrives as a sudden crack of sunlight on iron. You barely register the glint before it's followed by a shout and the echo of revolver fire. You hit the ground behind a bush, heart in your throat. Bullets pound the earth where your head was moments ago, sending chips of rock and dirt in a high-speed spray. Your brain lights up. The Great Plains weren't named for the silence. You press your cheek against the soil, rifle ready. No wrong weapon. You fumble for your revolver, palm slick with sweat. You spin around, squinting through the haze, and spot two mounted men in dusty hats, firing at a steer with uncanny recklessness. One's shouting, the other's laughing. Hard to say which is more dangerous. You stand. Bad idea, but you're not about to let them shoot the herd into extinction. You fire once, it's a lousy shot, but the first bullet's the most important. You hit the third bale of grass behind the shooter's head. He freezes. You fire again, this time closer to his horse. It whinnies, bucks, and bolts. The other shooter reconsiders his career choices and spurs his horse away with a yelp. Adrenaline surges. You fire one more shot into the air, just enough to remind Rustler Hash 1 that you're armed and you know how to use it. He glances back, recognizes you as the camp's newbie cowboy, and then vanishes over the ridge, dragging the terrified Mustang behind him. The herd is spooked. Cattle scatter. You shout, wave your hat, and ride after them, firing warning shots to keep them in line. It's chaos. It's terrifying. It's exactly why cowboys carried guns. Finally, the cattle regroup, more or less, and you shepherd them back to camp. Your colleagues watch you ride in like a stranded hero. Horses belly heaving, guns still smoking. You catch your breath, reload, and try not to think about how close you came to being a stain in the dust. Back at camp, you're debriefed, not by a general or a sergeant, by Cookie. He's stirring beans and eyeballing the newcomer's bloody boot. "Rustlers, huh? Good shooting," he says. It's the highest praise you'll hear all day. You wash your gun, not because you know how, but because someone has to, and that someone is you. The revolver is heavy in your palm. The cylinder whirls. The barrel glints. You feel capable, alive, slightly less terrified. You tuck it away in its holster, where it sits like a living curse against your hip. But hazards on the range are not limited to outlaws. Nature is the deadliest partner. After lunch, yes, beans again. You're sent with a small crew to mend a broken fence line 20 miles west. You ride across sun-baked plains, wind whistling in your ears, scanning for anything that moves. A rattlesnake sunning itself on a rock, a jackrabbit zigzagging for its life, a hawk circling overhead. You jump when a lizard skitters across your boot. At the fence line, you dismount and start work. Splintered boards, tangled wire, and misaligned posts demand sweaty labor. No power tools, just hammers, pliers, and brute strength. You miss the city where fences have concrete and county inspectors. Here you improvise with stripped rails, horsehair rope, and sheer stubbornness. Somewhere off in the distance, you hear thunder again. Not the far-off grumble of a storm, but closer, like a drumroll of doom. You look up. The sky has turned a steely grey. Dark clouds race in. You start working faster. The first drop of rain is a cool kiss on your neck. Then comes wind that smells like brimstone, whipping dirt into your eyes. A wall of dust charges across the plains. You wrap a bandana around your face, squint and try to finish the fence before the storm turns the world to mud. Lightning forks. One bolt lands uncomfortably close, arcing toward a lone tree that anyone can see as a magnet for electricity. You duck. Your partner, Hank, yells, "Time to ride!" But your horse has bolted at the horsehair rope tying it to a post. Now you're on foot, pounding after the runaway stallion in hail and wind. You chase it for a quarter-mile, through ankle-twisting gullies, over prickly brush, under branches that smirk at your lack of grace. You grab the rope as the horse smacks into a fallen log. It bucks. You hold on. Somehow you end up with the rope around your waist, one hand gripping leather and the other dragging you across the ground. You realize the only thing between you and unconsciousness is a frayed length of rope. You finally wrestle it to a stop. You're bruised, bleeding, soaked and exhausted. The horse snorts and shakes, staring at you like you owe it money. You cinch the indentation of the rope. No time for tenderness. You climb on, soaking wet, and spur it toward the fence. You finish repairing a few boards. The storm is passing, at least enough not to drown you. The herd's responses ranged from indifference to mild panic, but they survived. You mount your horse, chest heaving, and ignite the flint in your chest with pure relief. By the time you stagger back to camp, the world is calm again, quiet except for distant cattle calls. You tow your horse away, you catch your breath. You stagger into camp and collapse near the fire as though it's the best bed you've ever had. Dinner tonight is beans, a rare treat of bacon, and coffee that's stronger than a mule's kick. You eat slowly, savouring the warmth. You stare at the horizon where the sun dips behind purple haze. Your hands are trembling too badly to hold your cup. You wipe them on your pants, now streaked with mud and blood. There's a faint snap as the fire smoulders to embers. You wonder if you can sleep. Tomorrow you'll be breaking horses, training them to the bit, teaching them trust. The job requires patience, skill, and a willingness to get thrown hard. You're already behind. You stare at your horse nearby, munching on sparse grass. It gives you the side eye, daring you to try again. You suspect it knows the odds are stacked against you. You close your eyes, exhaustion pulling you under. The thrill of the gunfight and the terror of the storm have left you hollow and alive. You survived today, but surviving the range is a day-by-day gamble, and the house always wins. Chapter 6. Breaking horses, breaking yourself. You've had bad mornings before, hangovers, alarm clocks, stepping in something suspicious, but nothing prepares you for being assigned to break a horse. It starts at dawn, as usual, except today, instead of wrangling cattle or dodging storms, you're told to get the new one ready. The new one is a sleek, coal-black stallion tied up near the corral. He has eyes like coals and the attitude of a barroom brawler who just got kicked out and wants revenge. No one volunteers to help. They're watching, though. Because nothing says entertainment like watching the new guy get launched 20 feet into a cactus. You approach cautiously, lead rope in hand. The horse watches you like it knows something you don't, which it does. It knows how this ends. It's done this before. Your job is to break him, which sounds like a bad relationship metaphor, but is really just cowboy speak for teaching a wild horse to accept a saddle, a rider, and the complete betrayal of his natural instincts. And you're not really breaking the horse. You're breaking yourself until he gives up. You begin by brushing him down, talking softly, trying to channel some sort of calming energy. It doesn't work. The moment you try to slip on the saddle blanket, he sidesteps and pins his ears back. You try again. This time he twitches. You freeze. He snorts. You blink. Eventually you get the blanket on, then the saddle. It takes 15 minutes, 3 readjustments, and a hard stomp on your foot, but it's there. You feel like you've won something. You haven't. Now it's time to mount. The moment your boot hits the stirrup, the horse shifts its weight. You hesitate. He doesn't. He bucks hard and fast before you're even halfway into the saddle. You slam into the ground with a sound like someone dropped a sack of potatoes wrapped in regret. The cowboys laugh. You get up, limp, brush off, and try again. Second attempt, you're on. Barely. The horse explodes underneath you like a rocket made of muscle and fury. You grip the reins, legs tight, body bouncing like you're trying to hug a live wire. He bucks, spins, reverses direction, leaps straight up. Gravity is not your friend. You last 12 seconds. You hit the ground harder this time. Your hat flies off. Your pride goes with it. You get up again because you have to. There's no quitting in cowboy life, just extended pauses to cough out dirt. The third time you stay on longer, long enough to see your reflection in the horse's eye and wonder if you've made a terrible mistake. He bucks again. You grunt, tighten your grip, lean into the chaos. You're riding a storm and it hates you. But you hold, just barely. Then it stops. No warning, no slowdown, just stops. The horse is panting. You are too. Your arms feel like cooked spaghetti. Your thighs are going to bruise in ways that defy physics, and your ribs ache every time you breathe. But you're still seated. He stands there, blinking, deciding. You don't move. This is the part they don't tell you. Breaking a horse isn't about strength, it's about patience, about not flinching, about being so stubbornly calm that the animal realizes you're not going to fight him, you're going to outlast him. After a few more minutes of quiet standoff, he exhales, long, deep, resigned. He walks. You guide him in slow, tight circles. He follows, and just like that you've won. Sort of. You dismount, your legs immediately forget how to work. You walk bow-legged to the fence, sit down and nearly pass out. One of the older cowboys hands you a canteen. "Not bad," he says. "For a dead man. It's the nicest thing anyone's said to you all week." The rest of the day is slower. You check saddles, re-roll bedrolls, try not to scream every time your thighs brush anything. Dinner is Yep, beans. But you eat them with the quiet pride of someone who went head-to-head with a half-ton beast and didn't die. Your horse stands near the campfire, calm now, watching you. You think, maybe you've earned his respect, or he's just waiting for round two. Either way, you're bonded now. In dust, blood, and mutual exhaustion, you sleep hard that night, dreamless, limp, and tomorrow you'll ride him for real, and if he throws you again, well, you've already buried your dignity somewhere around mile 14. What's a little more dust? Chapter 7. Saddle sores and snake oil. The sun isn't even up yet, and already your backside is plotting revenge. You slide out of your bedroll, groaning like an old door hinge. Every inch of your body protests. Your thighs are chafed raw from yesterday's battle with the demon horse. Your shoulders ache from holding reins like your life depended on it, which it did. And your rear feels like someone used it to sand a fence post. Welcome to the slow, quiet torture of cowboying, saddle soreness. This isn't just a mild discomfort. This is a full-body existential crisis. Your hips are tight, your knees feel like they're made of damp wood. The skin around your waistband is red, cracked, and threatening legal action. You walk like you've been kicked by a mule, and honestly, that might have been less painful. You hobble to the fire where Cookie's already ladling out the breakfast of champions, beans, coffee, and something that might be bacon or might be leather. You sit down carefully, trying to angle yourself so the least amount of surface area touches the log. It doesn't work. There's no such thing as a comfortable cowboy. One of the older guys hands you a small tin. Inside is a paste that smells like pine tar and misery. "Rub that where it hurts," he says without eye contact, "and wash your hands after." You don't ask questions. You apply the salve. It burns like betrayal, then numbs into something resembling relief. You immediately forget to wash your hands and spend the next 5 minutes wiping your eyes and cursing your lineage. Today's job, a long cattle drive stretch. No rustlers, no fences. Just hours upon hours of riding in a straight line while keeping cows from wandering off into the hills. Easy, right? No, not when your horse is still testing whether you're worthy of his cooperation, and your thighs scream every time the saddle creaks. The terrain is dry and bumpy. You bounce more than you ride. The stirrups dig into your arches. Your hat is too tight. Your shirt has fused to your back with a mix of sweat, dust, and blood you're too tired to identify. By mid-morning, the pain settles into the background, not because you're healed, but because it's been replaced by a deeper, quieter agony. Your tailbone goes numb. Your hands develop tiny blisters from the rains. You start to hallucinate cold water and cushions. At one point, a dust devil whips past. You flinch. Your horse flinches harder. He bucks slightly. You almost scream. "Relax," someone calls. "He's just playing." You want to dismount, lie down, and die. But there's nowhere to do that, just dust, cactus, and cow dung. So you keep riding. Lunch is a quick stop. You slide off the horse and almost collapse. Your legs shake. You try to sit on a rock. The rock rejects you. You stand to eat your bread and jerky, chewing slowly while staring into nothing. You drink warm water from a canteen that tastes like rust. A bee lands on your hat. You let it. You've stopped negotiating with nature. Someone passes around a bottle of snake oil. You've heard of it. A miracle tonic sold by travelling hucksters. Good for cuts, bruises, rheumatism, heartbreak, and probably ghost problems. You take a swig. It burns worse than the saddle sore salve. You cough so hard your horse side-eyes you, but weirdly, you feel better. Placebo or poison, you don't care. You remount with a grunt and a promise to never ride again after this job ends. It won't. By afternoon, your horse finally stops testing you. He trots in rhythm. You relax a little. Big mistake. Your butt hits the saddle wrong and you yelp, drawing laughter from the crew. Someone offers you a sheepskin pad for your saddle. You consider marrying them. The cattle are calm, mostly. A few veer off. You swing back around, whistle, click your tongue, and steer them back. You're starting to get the hang of this. Just in time for the sun to hit its peak and roast your face like bacon in a skillet. You pull your bandana up over your nose, drop your hat brim, and sweat like a sinner in church. Every piece of clothing you own is now soaked, sun-bleached, or crusted in dust. You smell like salt, smoke, and raw meat. The ride back to camp is mercifully short, but dismounting? That's where the real tragedy begins. You slide off your horse, and your legs simply don't work. You wobble. You teeter. You grab the saddle for balance and curse gravity itself. You walk like a newborn deer that's been drinking. Every step is an adventure in nerve damage. Back in camp, you lie on your stomach next to the fire. You do not move. Dinner is, guess what, beans. You eat flat on your belly with your hands. No shame left. Someone plays a tune on a harmonica. Someone else snores loud enough to scare the coyotes. You lay there wondering if your spine will ever forgive you. And then Cookie brings over a new remedy, a cold, wet rag soaked in whiskey. He tosses it at your face and grunts, "Don't say I never gave you nothing." You thank him like he's a saint. You sleep that night, belly down, arms out, looking like a man outlined in chalk at a crime scene. Tomorrow you're riding again, and by then you'll have exactly one working nerve left. But hey, you're still here. Sort of. Chapter 8. Blisters, barbed wire, and bad luck. If you thought cowboy life was all dramatic cattle drives and dusty duels at high noon, allow this chapter to ruin that fantasy completely. Because today your job is fixing fence. Not a heroic gunfight, not chasing rustlers, just fence. Miles of it. The kind made from sharp, rusting barbed wire that slices skin like butter and laughs in the face of your gloves. It's not glamorous. It's not fast. It's just pain, repetition, and the occasional chance to impale yourself on something older than you. The day begins early, as always, with the usual helping of beans and judgment. One of the older cowboys hands you a spool of barbed wire and a pair of pliers that look like they were forged before the war, any war. You're riding out to the far north line, which was trampled during last week's storm, or maybe a cow got curious and charged through it. Either way, it's down, and you're fixing it. You head out with a small crew. There's Hank, who only speaks in monosyllables, and Eli, who claims he once saw a jackrabbit kill a rattlesnake. You're not sure if he's joking. He never smiles. The ride is long, hot. The air smells like dry sagebrush and sweat. Your saddle sores haven't healed. Every bounce reminds you that flesh can bruise in ways it probably wasn't meant to, but you stay quiet because complaining gets you nothing but extra chores and new nicknames like Blister Baby. By the time you reach the broken fence, the sun's already brutal. The wire hangs like a limp snarl across bent posts. Some snapped, some buried in dust. A few feet away lies the unmistakable calling card of a bull, hoof prints deep and erratic, like he got angry at a tumbleweed and took it out on the fencing. You dismount, you stretch, you regret it immediately. Then the real work starts. You begin by pulling out the old wire. It's rusty, brittle, and full of barbs that are somehow still sharper than your mind this morning. Your gloves are thin. You snag your thumb in the first 5 minutes. It bleeds. You suck on it, curse a bit, and keep going. Each post needs realigning, some need replacing. You dig them out with a dull shovel and a lot of rage. The ground is baked hard as stone, and after 15 minutes of sweat and swearing, you've created a hole just deep enough to insult your efforts. You jam in a new post, fill it with dirt, tamp it down with your boots. Repeat. You're halfway done when the wire gets caught on your pants. You tug. Bad idea. The barb tears a nice little hole in the thigh of your jeans and gives you a bonus scratch for your troubles. It's shallow, but it stings. Eli walks over and offers you a squirt of whiskey from a flask. "For the cut," he says. You nod and pour it over the wound. It burns like hell. You don't scream, not because you're tough, but because you've already lost the will to make noise. Back to the wire. You stretch it tight across the posts using a wire puller that clearly hates you. It creaks, strains, threatens to snap. Hank holds the end while you loop it around a nail. The nail slips. The wire recoils and nearly takes out your eye. You step back. Take a breath. This isn't a fence. It's a trap designed to humble you. You finish the stretch. Hammer the nails. Check the tension. 1 line done. 3 more to go. The sun climbs higher. The back of your neck cooks under your hat. Your shirt sticks to you like wet parchment. Your hands are numb except for the spots that hurt like they've been lit on fire. And then blisters. You peel off your glove and see them. Bright red bubbles forming across your palm, under your fingers, between the knuckles. One pops, it oozes something you won't describe here. You wrap your hand in an old rag and keep going. What else can you do? Lunch is a biscuit from your saddlebag. It's dry and tastes like sawdust. You drink warm canteen water and stare at the sky like it personally offended you. The final post won't go in straight. The ground is too rocky. You dig around it, shift the angle, dig again. Sweat drips into your eyes. Dirt finds its way into your mouth. You feel like you're being buried alive by fence-related incompetence. When you finally finish, the fence looks like it was built by someone blindfolded on a dare. But it holds. That's all that matters. You ride back to camp in silence. No one speaks. No one sings. Everyone just rocks in their saddles, letting the horses find the way home. Back at camp, Cookie serves beans again. You eat. You're too tired to chew properly, so you just kind of mash and swallow. That night, someone pulls out a harmonica, plays a slow, wheezy tune. You lie back, hands bandaged, body throbbing, brain still somewhere between conscious and delirious. You survived the wire, you didn't lose a finger, or your sanity. You're not proud, but you are alive, barely. And tomorrow you're riding perimeter again, because the West doesn't care how many blisters you have. The cows still wander, the fences still fall, and the dirt will always win. So sleep fast, you'll need it. Chapter 9. Rain, Mud, and Miserable Miles. It starts with a smell. You're standing over your half-burnt breakfast, trying to decide whether the biscuits are actually edible this time, when it hits you. The air's different, thicker, wetter, like someone wrung out a mouldy towel over your head. The sky's still clear, mostly, but every old cowboy around the fire is sniffing the wind and squinting into the horizon like it's whispering a warning. You ask what's going on. Rain, Hank says, one word, full dread, and just like that your day is ruined. Rain on the plains isn't just inconvenient, it's a full-blown disaster. Trails flood, horses spook, cattle panic, equipment rusts, and worst of all, you still have to ride. Today's task, check the east perimeter and push a few stray cows back toward the main herd. Should be simple, but nothing's simple when the weather decides to hate you. You saddle up, already irritated, your gear's damp, your gloves are stiff, and your boots somehow are wet before you even touch the first puddle. You ride out with two other hands. The trail is still solid underfoot, but you can feel it softening. The clouds creep in, low and heavy like a ceiling sagging with tension. A single raindrop taps your hat, then another, then 20 more. You pull up your slicker if you have one. If not, you're screwed. Most cowboys own a coat made of oiled canvas or some hideous wool monstrosity. But it only works for the first 20 minutes. After that, it's just wet fabric that sticks to your skin like a cold, judgmental hug. The rain comes slowly at first, then all at once, within minutes you're soaked. Hair, boots, saddle, everything. The trail turns from firm dirt to something resembling melted chocolate. Every hoof step squelches. Water drips off your hat brim into your eyes. You can't see, you can't breathe. You just keep moving forward, blind and miserable. Then you hit a low ridge, and the mud claims its first victim. Your horse slips, not dramatically, just enough to jolt your spine and remind you that you are not in control. You curse. He curses back, probably, and you both continue, now with the added bonus of mild terror. Cows are out there somewhere. You find them huddled under a bent tree, looking about as thrilled as you are. You try to move them, they resist. You yell, they blink slowly. One flicks a tail, another lies down in the mud like it's given up entirely. Eventually, with enough shouting and hat-waving, they trudge forward, slowly, slipping with every step, bellowing complaints that sound alarmingly human. You push them up a muddy incline, your horse huffing, your body aching, the rain running down your back like ice water poured from the heavens. Then thunder, low at first, then louder. The kind of deep, rolling thunder that makes the ground vibrate and your instincts scream. Your horse's ears flick back, the cows bunch tighter. You know what's coming, lightning. It cracks across the sky, white-hot and close. The herd panics, stampede. You try to circle them, block their path, yell them back into line, but the mud makes everything worse. Your horse stumbles. You nearly fall. The cows run straight past you, hooves flinging wet dirt into your face. You're spinning in the saddle, soaked to the bone, and barely holding on as your horse bolts after them. For the next 10 minutes, it's chaos. Water, mud, noise. You can't tell where the trail ends, and the danger begins. You ride hard, trying to get ahead of the herd. Eventually they slow, exhausted, confused, miserable. So are you. You regroup, reposition. Start the long, wet shuffle back to camp. The rain doesn't stop. By the time you return, you're a walking puddle. Your socks slosh. Your gloves weigh 3 pounds. You can't feel your thighs. Your hands are pruny. Your reins slip through your fingers. Your saddle is saturated. You try to dismount, but your boots stick in the stirrups. You land in mud, face first. No one helps. Everyone's wet. Everyone's miserable. It's an unspoken rule of cowboy life. If we're all suffering, no one gets sympathy. You wring out your shirt, your teeth chatter. You can't even sit by the fire. There's too much smoke from the wet wood, and the flames only make the steam rise off you like you're a haunted scarecrow. Cookie hands you a bowl of beans. They're soggy. You eat them anyway. Your fingers cramp when you try to hold your spoon. You switch hands. That one's worse. You drop it. Eat with your fingers. Sleep is impossible. Your bedroll is wet. Your blankets are wet. You try to lay down and find the driest corner of camp, which turns out to be a rock. You use it as a pillow. You're too tired to complain. The rain finally stops sometime after midnight, but the wind picks up, cold, relentless. You lie there, wrapped in damp wool, shivering like a dog in a thunderstorm. Morning doesn't bring relief, just more mud, more fog, and the smell of everything rotting slowly in the open air. You saddle up again, no time to dry out, there's always more cows to chase, and nowhere to hide from the weather. Chapter 10. A fistful of nothing, you've made it to the 10th day, or at least it feels like the 10th year. You're blistered, bruised, sunburned, soaked, and convinced your lower back is being haunted by a ghost with a crowbar. But through all the mud, manure, and misadventure, there's one shining beacon at the end of the trail. Payday, or so you think. Let's get something straight. Cowboy pay in the Wild West was about as exciting as the food. You weren't out here herding cattle and dodging dysentery for stacks of gold. Most cowboys earned around $25 to $40 a month, that's it. For weeks of labor, broken ribs, and enough gastrointestinal trauma to qualify as a medical experiment. If you were lucky, your employer wasn't a complete crook. If you were really lucky, he paid you in actual money and not store credit, which basically meant you got paid in beans, bullets, or boots you couldn't afford anyway. But today you hear the bosses coming in with the payroll pouch. Everyone in camp straightens up. Boots get polished with spit. Shirts get brushed off. One guy even tries to comb his hair, which has not seen a comb since Lincoln died. You sit by the fire counting imaginary coins and trying to remember what a clean dollar looks like. The trail boss arrives around mid-morning. His moustache enters the camp before he does. He's the type who walks with a swagger even when there's nowhere to go. Everyone greets him like he's carrying the Holy Grail, which, to be fair, he kind of is. He opens the pouch, the coins jingle like a church bell made of disappointment. One by one he calls names, handing out envelopes or small pouches of coins. When he says your name, you stand a little straighter. You take the pouch. It's light, too light. You open it, count the contents. Twice, it's $19. You blink, say nothing at first. The boss sees your face and shrugs. You busted a canteen, ate more than your share. That incident with the horse counts as equipment damage. You want to argue, you want to scream, but you don't. Because out here, the trail boss is the law. You sit back down, your bag of coins in hand. You've been worked to the bone, nearly killed 4 times, and gotten trench foot in 3 different directions. And now you're holding enough to buy a pair of boots and maybe a shave. You're not alone. One guy got docked for bad attitude. Another lost half his pay to a saddle repair that may or may not have been his fault. A third isn't paid at all. Apparently he still owes the company for food. That's when it hits you. You're not a cowboy. You're a drifting laborer with no union, no contract, and no one coming to rescue you. You thought this was freedom. It's not. It's a paycheck shaped like a joke. Still, the guys make the most of it. That night, a few of them take their wages and head into the nearest town. You go with them. You don't know why, maybe out of boredom, maybe just to spend what little you have on something warm that isn't beans. The saloon is the same as before, loud, smoky, and soaked in bad choices. You get a drink. Cheap whiskey. It burns worse knowing it cost half a day's work. A poker game starts. You think about joining. You think about doubling your money. But you also think about losing it all in one bad hand and walking back to camp with nothing but saddle rash and shame. You don't play. One of the older cowboys does, wins a round, buys drinks for the table. You get one, sip it slowly, and stare at the ceiling fan spinning in lazy circles like it's mocking your life choices. Later, a fight breaks out. Of course it does. It always does. Someone accuses someone else of cheating. A chair breaks, a bottle flies, the piano stops. A man gets thrown through a door, and you're suddenly very aware that this is how people lose teeth on payday. You duck out the back before it escalates further. You sit on a barrel in the alley watching the stars and wondering how many miles it'll take to earn another $20. The next morning you ride back to camp with 2 coins left in your pocket, a mild hangover, and the creeping suspicion that this might just be the rest of your life. Out here, nobody gets rich, they just get older, angrier, and better at hiding pain. You tell yourself it's about the open sky, the freedom, the brotherhood. But it's not really. It's about endurance. Because the West doesn't care about your dreams. It cares if you can sit in the saddle, shoot straight, and show up tomorrow ready to do it all again, for less than what a dentist charges to pull a tooth. And if you can, congratulations. You're paid in dust and disappointment, and you've still got 2 chapters left to survive. Chapter 11, The Longest Night. They don't warn you about cowboy nights. Not the ones where you pass out exhausted and wake up under a patchy sky with a stiff back and a cold nose. No, The real cowboy nights are the ones that stretch so long they start to bend reality. The ones where you stop checking the stars for time because they never seem to move. The ones where your eyelids weigh 100 pounds, but closing them might mean you lose 100 cows or your life. Tonight is one of those nights. You're on herd watch again, and it's your second shift because Pete got kicked in the ribs by a mule and is now wheezing like an accordion full of dust. You tried to protest, but the foreman just grunted and threw you a rifle. So here you are, half asleep, fully miserable, riding slow figure eights around a herd of several hundred cattle, who look just as unhappy as you feel. The moon is full. That sounds romantic, until you realize it lights up everything in a pale, silvery blue that turns every rock into a ghost and every clump of brush into a bandit. You squint into the dark and listen. That's all you do. Ride, listen, try not to fall off your horse, because tonight the cows are acting strange. They're jumpy, restless, twitchy in that way animals get when they know something you don't. You've seen it before, a certain roll of the shoulders, a low murmur instead of a clean moo. It's not good. You circle again. Your horse snorts, ears pricked forward. Then you hear it too, something out there, past the edge of the herd. It's not a wolf, too heavy, not a bear. Wrong rhythm, it's walking, deliberate, measured, maybe 2 legs, maybe 4. You pull the rifle off your saddle. Whatever it is, you don't want it near the herd. Not because you're brave, but because a stampede in the middle of the night means death. Not drama, not slow-motion heroism, just hooves, screams and crushed ribs under 2 tons of beef. You keep circling. Another sound, closer this time, a low rustle, then silence. You squint, nothing. The prairie stretches flat and wide, but the shadows don't behave. They move when you're not looking. Whisper when the wind's still. You spot something, barely. A shape, low to the ground, watching you. You raise the rifle, steady, breathe. Then it bolts. You don't fire. You can't even tell what it was. Maybe a coyote, maybe something worse. But the cows have seen it now too. One snorts, then another. Then 3 more, heads raise, hooves shuffle. You mutter a curse. Ride hard across the front of the herd, waving your hat, singing a broken lullaby just to calm them down. That's what they taught you. Sing to the cattle, keep them calm. Doesn't matter if your voice is garbage, the rhythm is what matters. So you sing something old, a half-remembered song your grandpa used to hum when fixing things. You ride slowly, voice cracking, boots soaked with dew. It works a little, the herd settles. For now. An hour passes, maybe 2. You blink longer than you should. Your chin dips, your body slumps. Then you jerk awake. Your horse had started to wander off course. You're exhausted, beyond tired. Your bones hurt in ways science hasn't categorized yet. Your fingers ache from gripping reins, your legs from squeezing stirrups, your brain from being awake this long in a reality that seems designed to erode your will to live. But you don't stop, because stopping means slipping, and slipping means something gets loose. You hear a low groan behind you. You turn, rifle still across your lap. It's nothing, or at least nothing you can see. You're losing it. Eventually, finally, just before the sky starts to shift from black to indigo, your replacement shows up. He's fresh-faced and yawning. He asks how it went. You just shake your head. Quiet! You lie. You ride back into camp. Everything hurts. You unsaddle your horse, give him a pat, and walk like a scarecrow toward your bedroll. You don't bother changing clothes. You just collapse. You dream of hooves, of shadows in the grass, of singing to animals that don't blink. You wake up 3 hours later to the smell of beans. But this time you skip breakfast, because you've tasted the night. And it was enough. Chapter 12, Ride into the Dust. There's no grand finale, no heroic trumpet, no certificate of completion. You just wake up sore, hungry, and wearing the same sweat-drenched shirt you've been peeling off your spine every night for the last 3 weeks. This is it, the last day. The cattle drive is almost done. You've pushed them hundreds of miles through heat, dust, rain, lightning, snakes, bandits, and food that should be studied by modern chemistry. Your hands are cracked. Your knees click when you stand. You haven't seen yourself in a mirror in weeks, and that's probably for the best. You roll up your bedroll with movements so practiced they're basically muscle memory. The herd is already lowing. You grab your hat, which has gone from cowboy accessory to sentient fungus incubator, and saddle up one last time. The final stretch. The trail is flat but long, stretching ahead like a dare. You ride in silence, too tired for jokes, too focused to daydream. Your horse seems to know it too. He walks steady, no attitude, even he's ready to be done. The herd moves slowly. Cows are limping, some are coughing. You spot at least two with hooves that need tending, but it's too late to worry about that now. The job is to get them across the last 10 miles and into the pens. That's it, just 10 more miles. Of course, it can't be that easy. 3 miles in, one cow breaks from the group. You sigh, peel off and chase it down. You've done this 100 times now. You whistle right in close, steer it back toward the herd. It's stubborn, of course it is. You nudge it, speak low and calm, promise it you'll both be free soon. Eventually it returns. You keep going. Next a bridge, wooden narrow, over a dried-out ravine. The cattle hate it. You start to push them across, a few at a time. Most go, albeit nervously. One refuses, just plants itself and stares like it's reconsidering the entire concept of existence. You dismount, lead it by hand, talk to it like it's a friend. It finally moves. This is what cowboying is, not shootouts, not saloon brawls, just arguing with livestock and pretending you have the upper hand. The sun climbs higher, sweat trickles down your back, dust clings to every pore. Your eyes sting, your fingers go numb on the reins, but you keep going because you're almost there. Then, just before the final stretch, it hits you. You've changed, not in a grand cinematic way, you're still you, but now you're a version of you that knows how to tighten a cinch blindfolded, how to spot a rustler from a quarter mile, how to ride for 12 hours without falling off, mostly. You know what beans taste like on day 8. You know how to spit blood from a toothache and still laugh about it. You're tired, bruised, scarred, and proud. That's the part no one tells you about. You didn't sign up for this because it was smart. You stayed because it made you tough. You crest the final ridge. Below is the holding pen, wide, fenced, bustling with the ranch crew. The drive is over. You ride in, guide the cattle through. The last one passes the gate. It's done. You sit there a moment, then dismount. You walk like a man who's been riding a horse for 3 lifetimes. And in a way you have. Someone offers you water. Another guy pats your back. Someone's already counting the cattle. You should feel relief, joy, triumph. Instead you feel quiet, because out here endings aren't loud, they're dusty, subtle, earned. Later, someone hands you your pay. You don't even count it. You just sit down under a tree and take your boots off. It's the first real breath you've taken in weeks. You survived. And if this were a movie, the credits would roll. The harmonica would swell. The sun would dip low, golden across the grasslands. But this isn't a movie, it's history. And you wouldn't have lasted a day. But somehow, against all odds, you made it to the end. So you made it. Barely. Your hands are blistered, your bones are angry, and you smell like regret and horse sweat. But somehow you're still breathing. The truth is, cowboy life wasn't built for comfort, glory, or even survival. It was built on grit, stubbornness, and the kind of pain that doesn't even make the history books. You wouldn't have lasted a day out here, but if you did, you'd never be the same again. Until next time, sleep light, ride hard, and keep your boots by the fire. You're going to need 'em.